Welcome to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question, and since we're getting very close to the end of the NFL season, I thought we would have trivia theme, the NFC. All right? And when we come back, wanted to go over a little bit of highlights of 2023. Talk about the Broncos benching Russell Wilson, college football looks like it'll probably remain a U.S. sport. The Pebble Beach Pro-Am gets serious. No celebrities this time, looks like. Boxing to allow transgender women, which are men who turned into women, so to speak, to fight women. Talk a little bit about that. And is the only reason the NFL doesn't try the tush push is because the Eagles, they have Jalen Hurts who can squat more than 600 pounds. I'm thinking, okay, you got to have somebody who's got some very strong legs to do the tush push. My guess is they'll probably outlaw that. Because in fact, if I remember correctly, you're not allowed to pull your teammate forward. Isn't that right?
Yeah, no, you're not allowed to do that, but you're allowed to push someone forward.
Yeah. I'm not sure why they allow one and not the other. Any idea?
I think there was a college situation once where the players were known to, and I'm trying to remember which school it was, but that was like a strategy of where they would, when they were down low, they would pull the guy across the line. And I guess the idea is that, the leading guy should be in front and not, the ball should be in front and not have the leading guy be someone pulling.
Yeah, maybe that's the reason. All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. All right.
First show of 2024.
That's right, exactly. So let's talk about some highlights of 2023. First of all, the biggest highlight of 2023, Taylor Swift dating Travis Kelce.
And that already says what a lousy sports year it was in 2023.
Okay,
Not my favorite sports year.
Now, I kind of some interesting things. Shohei Ohtani signs a $700 million contract.
Another reason why that wasn't my favorite sports year.
Yeah, and then is it Yamamoto comes from Japan, and
another reason that wasn't my favorite sports year.
The Live Tour paying out hundreds of millions of dollars to just a handful of pros.
That's another reason why 2023 wasn't my favorite sports year.
Okay, the A's leaving for Las Vegas.
That part I'm okay with. That part doesn't bother me as much as the other items bother me for the sports year.
Okay. The upcoming news that the Capitals and the Wizards are going to be probably leaving Washington, D.C. for Virginia. Because
again, no consequence to me whatsoever. No consequence.
Okay.
Although the Wizards still are trying to win another game. That's, I think that the whole month of December went by and the Wizards didn't win anything.
Well, and Detroit, I was kind of actually hoping they would break the record, but they tied it.
They did break the record.
Well, apparently they tied it at 28 losses.
Yeah.
But maybe that was the other team was over 2 seasons, and so this was
it was over 2 seasons exactly. That's still the most number of losses during a regular season.
Yeah, they didn't win since like October 28th, so all of November and pretty much almost all of December they didn't win. Poor team. But interesting. So
4 James Wiseman.
Yeah. Foreign-born players like Jokic, Embiid, Wemby now, and Giannis are kind of dominating the NBA. Obviously, we still have Steph Curry and guys like that, but there's a lot of these foreign players who are just absolutely beating down the doors there. Flag football is going to make its debut in 2028. What do you think? Is that going to be good?
No, I mean
No,
it's another desperation move to try to get people to watch football players. When
in the
it's
Olympics.
no longer the season. But I don't think people are going to be crazy about watching flag football. It's
They talked to this, and all of these. I would give credit to Yahoo Sports. I don't want to be like Claudine Gay from Harvard and not give credit where credit is due. So thanks to Yahoo Sports, this is where I got all my titles from.
I
So
and you can still get hurt playing flag football. I think that's a kind of a
yeah,
misnomer. People can still get knee injuries. They can still get
yeah.
tear their hamstrings. They can still when you do blocking for flag football, and I did that in college. You're
Uh-huh.
still, in fact, it's a little bit worse than playing with regular
Because you don't have
pads.
all the equipment.
You don't have any equipment. So when
Yeah,
you block, you're really just, pushing guys straight with your arms, and you have no
yeah.
padding and no helmet or anything like that. So I'm
No,
not
that's true.
sure.
No. Oh,
All it takes, I think, is for one star player to get hurt doing flag football, and we'll probably never see it again.
interesting. Yeah, because they're talking about it could be a new wave of international superstars, the same way the Dream Team did for basketball in 1992, which is
I don't
really.
think so.
I tell you that was exciting because for so many years we it used to be just amateur players, and then suddenly when they opened it up, they go, okay, well, you know what? Let's put a basketball team together, and they just it was so dominant. It was actually kind of fun.
Here's a little piece of trivia for you. That
Yeah.
did you know in that in none of the games that the Dream Team played that they called a single timeout?
I did not know that.
Yeah, the,
Wow.
there's never been a team that's played that many games in basketball without ever calling it. I guess maybe the Harlem Globetrotters would be probably the only other
Yeah,
team that
that's
didn't
true.
have to call a
Yeah, because
timeout.
they were so dominant that they really didn't need to call a timeout except for
No, no, they were ahead in every single game by other than the opening tip, they were ahead pretty much in every game by
yeah.
multiple by double digits within like the first 5 minutes of every game.
But isn't it interesting now? Because again, we got so many foreign players who play in the NBA now. I mean, I don't remember which year that the USA lost their first game, but it was kind of embarrassing because, you know, they couldn't live up to the dream team. And
Yeah,
then
but they are, as you pointed out, there are not the legends participating any longer in the Olympic teams. That it's really coming down to a third and a fourth choice. And there's
probably, I'm going to guess it's because of the money. It's very similar to why a lot of these college players, win the Heisman and then they don't play in the bowl games. Because there's too much money at stake if they get hurt.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's just not as popular in America. The Dream Team was a once in a lifetime thing, and
Yeah.
ever since then, my teams have had good players, but not anyone that makes you go, "Oh my God, that's a legend." LeBron hasn't participated in a long time. Curry, got his medals and then hasn't participated in a long time. So you're getting guys like John Morant. You're getting guys like Zion Williamson. They're obviously good players, but they're
Sure.
second tier. They're not. You would not consider, not the way that the Dream Team had. Every single player
Oh
other
yeah.
than Christian Leitner, it was not only a
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, but probably in the top 20 of all-time NBA players.
And if John Moran can keep his head straight, he could be a superstar for sure. Um,
Yeah, and he played really well since he came back. He really reversed the fortunes of Memphis. They were 6-19 before he came on board, and they won 4 out of the last 5 games that he's been in. So,
okay.
there's enough time for him to make them still a contender. But they dug such a deep hole that it's going to be a lot of work for him to do it. But I'm not sure if anyone does have the skill to do it. It might be John Moran.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see here. We'll finish this off before we go to our break. So LeBron passed Kareem as the all-time scorer. That's pretty big news. the tush push in Philadelphia, as we noted before. That's kind
Well,
of that's
LeBron's had the courtesy of 3-point shots, which obviously Kareem only took and made one of the entire career
yeah,
that he had. So that, and he
yeah. But
was a
that's by
better
choice. Yeah, but that's by choice, though, right?
well,
I mean,
for vast majority of Kareem's career, the 3-pointer didn't exist.
okay. That's what I was thinking about someone like Pete Maravich, which basically it's the same sort of thing. So that's true. No, that's a good point. Even though Kareem really wouldn't have been a 3-point shooter
Plus,
anyway.
I think that LeBron winds himself into like twice as many free throws as a guy like Kareem. LeBron.
Yeah.
Nobody I've ever seen cries as much on the court when he gets hit and crumples into into a pile of sticks.
Yeah. That's a good point. The game is a lot less physical than when Kareem played because they're definitely trying to protect the players more, and so they're calling a lot more fouls. Hey, a
Right.
couple of quick things before we go to break here. Okay, so the Texas Rangers finally won their first World Series. Good for them. Michigan football sign stealing. That was kind of a big.
Yes, but cheaters. It just goes to show the cheaters never win, but they can get themselves into the college championship.
Yes, they can. And then one for Russell here. The Sacramento Kings made the playoffs for the first time in 16 years.
I was very proud of that, and it was a great moment for the people of Sacramento. I mean, I went to see a game for the first time at Golden One Arena last year with the Warriors' final game against Sacramento, and that the way that Golden One has made downtown Sacramento a viable party spot and a destination is something that and this on the other side I'd like to bring up something that me and my friend
Russell, tell you what, hold on to that thought. We have to go to our break here. First trivia question: what longtime NFL player and coach and NFC team owner also served as the NFC's president? Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown along with Russell Jackman. First trivia question: longtime NFL player and coach and NFC team owner also served as the NFC's president. Who was that?
How long ago are we talking about?
Well, he was a player way back, and he was a coach. You'll definitely know the name, and everyone kind of. As I say, everyone loved him as an NFC team owner, but he was also the president, which you don't really think of him as, and you don't really think of him as a player, but you do think of him as a coach.
I'm just going to throw one out there, and that's say Leo Nominellini.
No, George Halas.
George Halas. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when he played, I mean, I think that's like 1922 or something when they first came out.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead. You're still talking about the Sacramento Kings golden.
One of the things that my friend Rob, who lives in Sacramento, he's my best friend, and we talk about sports all the time. Have you ever read Bill Simmons' book on the NBA and his idea for the for an NBA Hall of Fame? That there's a pro basketball Hall of Fame, but there is no NBA Hall of Fame.
What would be the difference? Just having
the Basketball Hall of Fame is for if you played in college. If you played, women's sports, if you played foreign basketball, you're allowed in the Basketball Hall of Fame.
But they also must have the.
They obviously have NBA players, but I would love to see an actual dedicated NBA Hall of Fame like the NFL has, their own Hall of Fame, and it should be in Sacramento. I think that would be a great place, a great destination for Sacramento. And what he proposed was a pyramid. To have the building shaped like a pyramid, and as you walk around the pyramid and you go upwards, that's how you see the better players. And like at the top of the pyramid would be maybe Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Magic Johnson, Kareem.
And then if someone gets better, then what do? You build it up higher, or you take someone down? Yeah.
So no, you move people that move people down, and as I said, the worst players should be in the Hall of Shame, which should be leading towards the bathroom.
And who would you put in there?
Ron Artest.
Well, yeah, maybe as a human being, he wasn't. Is it talking about because of him being a human being, or because he wasn't a bad basketball player?
The Malice in the Palace.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's what I thought you were getting.
Stuck in the bathroom there. By the way,
did he go back to? Wait, is he still Meta World Peace?
He's Panda Friend now, but he doesn't play at all in basketball. I think he may play in China still.
Really?
He went to China. He changed his name to Panda Friend, and then when he went to China, and I don't know where he is now or what he's doing. Also, here's a question for you, Bill Laimbeer.
Yes.
Does he belong in the NBA or the Basketball Hall of Fame?
Boy, I tell you, he was the guy. He was probably the most hated player. I'd have to kind of look at his stats. He was good, but I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer.
I think he is. I think that those back-to-back bad boy Detroit Pistons changed the way basketball was played for about 10 years. And even though people didn't like it, it led to the slowing down of the NBA. Defense became really important, in that early 90s.
There was a time there where it was getting kind of boring because it was always one-on-one. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah,
but Bill Laimbeer, I think, was the greatest rule breaker in the history of the NBA. He got away with stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He did. In fact, I would duplicate it when I played basketball, which is what I call the Laimbeer love shove, which he waits for the ball to go in the air and everyone pays attention to the ball that's being rebounded. And he would go and push guys in the lower back right as they were about to get the ball. And it would give him the advantage to get rebounds against guys who were more physical.
Did the refs not call the fouls at that point?
The refs were that was at a time where hand checking was totally allowed, and as you said, it was a much more physical game. So refs missed that all the time. He had a really incredible sense of timing to be able to push guys and not have the refs see it all the time. And that's where he got away with breaking the rules quite a bit, and he was so good at it. And as you said, he was the most hated man in the NBA. That ought to get you into the Hall of Fame. If you can say you're the most hated man, I mean, just like Draymond Green, will be a for sure Hall of Famer, just by the virtue of saying, out of 480 guys, I was the most hated. So, that says something right there. So.
It's funny because I think about like Dennis Rodman. It's amazing because he wasn't really that tall, but boy, was he a great rebounder.
Absolutely. He had absolute timing to know where the ball was going to land and how to be between. And he proved that you don't have to be the tallest guy on the court. You just have to have the right positioning and the desire, the will, the sheer force of will to get in there and get that rebound. And
he played with Laimbeer, but he wasn't. I'm trying to remember. He wasn't really a dirty player.
The whole team was. So he wasn't the hallmark of their of how outrageous the team was defensively, because he had guys like John Sally, Rick Mahorn, and I always thought Isaiah Thomas was subtly one of the most dirtiest players in the game.
That's what I've heard, and it's funny because he got that great smile.
Exactly. That's how he got away with it. He would act all angelic and pretend like, "Ooh, me? I didn't do that."
But I'm trying to remember what kind of fouls he committed. What was his dirty play?
He stole the ball a lot. He wasn't a great defender as far as a body up guy goes, but he slapped guys' hands and did a lot to get the steals and again, he always pretended to refs like he never fouled. He always complained and used that a puppy dog eyes thing, to like get people to say, "Oh, okay, no, you didn't charge, you didn't, try hit the guy's arm."
He was. He's one of the smaller guys on the team, so that on the court.
Right. And so the refs were like, "Oh, okay, well, small guy like that couldn't cause any problems." And, obviously he caused a lot of problems. I also heard rumors from other NBA players that John Stockton was one of the dirtiest guys.
And
That he
that,
ever
yes,
played.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
But he would again wait till there's a big scrum, and then when everyone was going for a rebound, then he would punch you in the nether region, or EU, or something like that. People wouldn't see it, and you get away with not murder, but something close to it. So
Yeah, well, like that time that Draymond did that to Stephen Adams, that was an accident.
well,
I,
now we know that it wasn't, and he's paying the price for it. We didn't, by the last time we talked, we didn't really have a chance to talk about the Draymond Green suspension, which is still ongoing and has no real signs of subsiding. He may miss the entire year. Who knows? We've never seen a player disqualified indefinitely based for psychological reasons. That's the first time. It's the first time we've ever said that somebody doesn't come back until they behave better. And then it's an open-ended suspension.
Interesting. I'm trying to, because guys like with the Malice in the Palace, that was more like, okay, you're out for 15 games or whatever.
Exactly. They just kept him out for the whole season, the remainder of the season, and they announced that as soon as that happened, and we've never had an open-ended suspension.
I wonder if that'll really, that's scary in a way. If I'm Draymond Green, I'm thinking, at least if they tell me, okay, I'm out for 10 games or 20 games or whatever, even if it's a lot, at least I know there's light at the end of the tunnel. But when it's just sort of this open-ended, who knows?
Well, and they don't want to give Draymond that out where he says, okay, 20 games, all right, I'll just go on vacation for 20 games and come back and learn no lesson. They want.
Doesn't he have to like talk to therapists or something?
Yeah, he does, and that's the first time that's ever been ordered in any sport, as far as I know, where they've said you're not allowed back in until a doctor says you're mentally capable of handling the situation. Now, what I think is going to happen, my prediction is he'll come back, but he'll come back after the All-Star game. I think the NBA doesn't want any occurrences to happen before the All-Star game that would color people's desire to be all happy and smiley for their All-Star game. That's their
and isn't that sometime in February? Yeah, so
I think he's going to be out for January, and then it's half of February, and then I think the second half of February he'll come back, because the NBA also doesn't want to keep any of their stars out of the game and reduce ticket sales. So
unfortunately, the NBA All-Star game has been something that it's just been totally disinteresting for a long time.
Well, it's coming next year back to the Bay Area.
Well, then, it'll be good for, for us Bay Area people, but for the rest of it, it's the same thing. Okay, hey, let's go to our next trivia question on the NFC. Which NFC team was the first to win the Super Bowl after the 1970 merger? That's our trivia question. So listen carefully. Which NFC team was the first to win the Super Bowl after the NFC or the merger, in 1970? All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Our next trivia question: which NFC team was the first to win the Super Bowl after the 1970 merger?
I'll take a guess and say Green Bay.
No, remember they won the first two, but that was before the merger.
I did. You say remember, and I was negative 2 years old, I think, when that happened.
But you should know every Super Bowl team since existence. Come on,
well,
come on.
I do, but I don't keep track of the merger part. So
I know, but I gave you the year. You said 1970.
1970. Okay, so I was 2 years. I was 2 years and change
to win after the 1970 merger.
Was it? Let me think. Dallas?
Yes, Dallas Cowboys. They beat my Miami Dolphins 24-3 in Super Bowl VI in 1972. Because
They
remember
won't be
before
doing
that,
that this year.
yes, yeah, that's yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to see what happens. Okay, let's move on to football a little bit. So the Broncos are benching Russell Wilson for it looks like so far for the final 2 games of the season. Looks like they don't want him to get hurt, as they will most likely trade him because if he's still on the roster in March, his $37 million contract for the 2025 season will be fully guaranteed. If Wilson gets hurt, it could cost Denver a lot of money. Think
I
that's
don't see a team wanting to trade for him. I think that he's shown that he has no magic left, and Denver spent a lot of money and believed so much that he would be the quarterback for this team that they kind of there have been some amazing swings and misses in the last couple of years by teams. Like look at how the Browns spent all that money on Deshaun Watson,
yeah.
and now they've
And
got Joe
Johnny,
Flacco.
and don't forget Johnny Manziel.
Manziel, yeah, Johnny Football, one of the biggest busts, in my opinion, in
Yeah,
sports history. As
yeah.
far as
Well, Jamarcus Russell would give you a good run for the money,
but Jamarcus Russell didn't come with the moniker of Demarcus Football.
That's true.
I mean,
That's a good.
Johnny Manziel had so much
What,
pre-draft hype.
was John? What was the problem? Was it just that he was too much partying all the time?
Who Manziel?
Yeah,
He just didn't have the talent. I mean, he just flat out, was overhyped and was in a school that pushed him so much. It's like Jimmer Fredette. Do you remember Jimmer Fredette?
Fredette sounds familiar.
He was a basketball player. The Kings drafted number 10 overall, and was just he came out of school with all this hype that the school itself, was a hype machine just for that one play, and people went nuts over Johnny Manziel, and there were women singing Johnny Football, and on Instagram, and there were or whatever, I guess.
Well, how about this one? Go way back. Go not way back. For me, it's not way back, but go back to 1970. I think it was 74, 75. Archie Griffin won 2 Heismans in a row. I think he's the only one who's ever done that. And he comes out, and I think he played for Cincinnati Bengals, and he just kind of couldn't do anything. I mean, this was a guy
that was Manziel's problem. But then what's equally amazing is that Joe Flacco, who was sitting on his couch and nobody was calling, and the Browns are spending almost $250 million on Watson. And meanwhile, you have Joe Flacco, who's earning like NFL minimum, and he's putting up amazing numbers in these last few weeks.
Wasn't he the quarterback for the Ravens against our 49ers when they beat us?
Yes, I don't like to bring that up, but
I know.
It is disturbing. It is disturbing as a 49ers fan that John Harbaugh has our number. I mean, that was another thing that happened, in the last week, was how Baltimore took, a white hot 49ers team and threw, a bucket of ice cold water on them. And then
this last week, didn't they put up 56?
56 points. I think if ever there was a situation, they should have just handed the NFL MVP trophy to Lamar Jackson after that game. They should have just said, "We're not even going to have any kind of a debate on it. Here you go. Here's your NFL MVP." And he deserves it. I think that Jackson deserves it. And in some ways, Brock Purdy lost that MVP trophy in the head-to-head game against Lamar. If he'd had a better game than Lamar, then I think there'd be a lot of discussion over it. But now there isn't.
And then McCaffrey saying, again, just unfortunately with the loss against Baltimore, that kind of pushed probably Lamar above him too. But
I
again,
think so too. It's rare that you see a running back get the MVP anyway. So and in some ways, I think the balance of the 49ers, the fact that Purdy is great and the CMC is great and Kittle is great and Ayuk is great and Debo Samuel is great, kind of undercuts how great all of them are because they're all equal contributors. And so you don't have one of them standing head and shoulders above each other like Lamar Jackson. I mean, he leads the team in rushing and passing, obviously. And you just don't have offensive juggernauts in one player like that in the NFL. And that if you're looking for the most valuable player, I don't think Baltimore would be anywhere if they didn't have Lamar Jackson this year.
No, that's a good point. And then going on here to college football, don't you think it'll probably just remain a U.S. sport because the rest of the world, soccer seems to be the big popular one.
College football isn't even the most popular sport here in the United States. So, I think that college football has a lot of problems as far as its popularity goes because the way that you get to, the scrambling of all the different leagues right now, the divisions are all changing and it's going to be crazy. It's going to, wind up having UCLA, playing a bunch of East Coast games now. And who knows what the Pac-10 is going to wind up being. Who knows what the Big Ten is going to wind up being, or the SEC or the ACC. They're all going to be very scrambled. And I think for a while it's going to hurt.
They do it just because it's like popular to have team. Look what happened with interleague play in baseball, and then in football, the Miami Dolphins get to play the Seattle. You get all these interdivisions so that the fans can see different teams.
Yes and no. I mean, the problem is that you still get to make up your own schedule in college. That you're still, that may go away with the realigning of the divisions. But the fact that you can schedule so many cupcakes to inflate your record and be on top is something. But I do like how the college tournament is shaping up. It made yesterday's bowl games, at least the last two bowl games, really great to watch. I don't know if you watched the Michigan game.
I did. Yeah, I recorded it, then I watched it. It was, for a while there, it was like, okay, come on, what's going on?
But the ending was super dramatic.
Yes. Yeah, very, very much so. Hey, really quickly before we go to break here, well, actually, we got a few more minutes. I just want to kind of shift over here. So boxing apparently is going to allow transgender women to fight women.
That is not the topic I wanted to talk about.
No.
Sorry. Actually, I wanted to talk more about the end of the Detroit Dallas game.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
That to me is much more that is much more relevant and has more to do with the outcome of the NFL playoffs than.
No, actually, you're right. You're right. Well, let's go ahead and shift over to that. So apparently, the offensive lineman didn't check in. One of them did, but the other one didn't.
But they show him walking over to the ref before that, which is
and then I guess the ref tells Dallas, okay, this guy is eligible. But what can they have two eligible guys?
Yeah, they can, as long as they report. But they show number 68 walking up to the ref. So I don't know what he was saying, and I mean, what somebody pointed out was that there's mics everywhere on the field, so they've got to have some. There are microphones everywhere on that NFL field. They have to, and the refs are mic'd, so they have to have some audio capture of him going over there and saying, I'm reporting eligible. I don't know what else number 68 would have been talking to the ref about if he was walking over there, and talking.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
But another good point was that, okay, so that play gets called back because of the controversial call. Yes. But then the next play, I don't know if you watched it.
Yeah,
the next play, they threw an interception for the 2-point conversion. Yeah. but Dallas was offsides.
Correct.
And then the third play, they try again, and this time they it was incomplete. Don't you think after the second time, when you luck out with the offense with the defense offsides, that you kick the extra point instead of trying for it a third time?
Yes, especially since you're pushed back. I mean, from where they were, they weren't on the goal line, so
they're like at the 8-yard line.
Harder. And then you trust that you're going to win in overtime. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand going for it a second time, but when they blew it the second time and they got they lucked out by getting the offsides call, I think it was bad coaching to then say, I'm going to try for it a third time. And
I think what happens is, if you think about it, if they're in the moment and it's not like, okay, we're going to give you 5 minutes to think about this. I think there's just so much adrenaline going on. It's like, come on, we'll just do it again. And it's like some of these plays when it's like they just run up the middle. It's like,
That's what we saw last night. That's what we saw last night in the final play
with Alabama. What a stupid. I mean, personally, a stupid call because Milrow, I think that was his name. I mean, he's got legs. He showed it. He easily could have done a rollout and probably scored.
And I feel bad for Detroit in the sense that they put together an amazing drive against Dallas to score a touchdown against them, and it just kills all their momentum to wind up 1 point short on that.
That kind of helped us, didn't it?
It did.
49ers?
The 49ers, yes, it kept Detroit from having
to Arizona. So that was
good. Yeah. And then that was a huge deal for Philly's got a lot of fingers that are pointing in every direction, and they're probably going into the NFL playoffs with the least amount of momentum and the most amount of question marks, for a team that has, 10, 11 wins. It's amazing that they're going to, have this kind of controversy, but that to me is what makes this NFL playoffs, in my opinion, is going to be one of the most exciting NFL playoffs I think we've seen in a lot of years because there's no.
I just don't want to see anybody get hurt,
But right now there's no, especially in the AFC, there's no for sure. We guarantee you're going to win Baltimore looks like it, but they've never made it to the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. I mean, Kansas City is shaky, but they still got the goods. They still have a hell of a team.
Russell, hold on. We got to come to our next break here. Okay. Which NFC team, when it signed its first African American player, became the last to have an African American active on the roster? That's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101 last time. For today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. So which NFC team, when it signed its first black player, became the last to have a black player active on the roster?
That's a really hard question. I'm not even thinking along those lines. I'll say Atlanta.
No, that would have been a good guess. No, the Redskins.
The Redskins. Okay. With a name like that, I guess that's,
Exactly. A name like that. Probably should have done it. All right. We have 1 minute before we have to do our thoughts of the day. Any last comments there, my friend?
Well, I think that right now we're in the most exciting time of sports. I think this is where, the NBA is starting to click, and teams are starting to show who's good and who's bad. We've got the college championship coming up next week. We've got playoffs starting in football. And the hot stove league. If you're in that sort of shape with Major League Baseball, the free agent deals are going big and heavy. Although I'm dismayed that the Giants are kind of standing around watching again. It sort of reminds me of the guy that thinks they can get the hottest date for the prom, and you're only looking for the top cheerleader, and then she winds up going out with somebody else, and then all the other ladies that you wanted to take out to the prom have dates to go somewhere else. And now you're thinking about, well, does anyone know my second cousin?
Okay, Russell, you ready for our thoughts for the day? So I was going to quit all my bad habits for the new year, but then I remembered that nobody likes
Nobody
a
likes a
quit.
quitter.
There you go. You got it. Okay, and turns out that birthdays are good for you. Studies show that the people who have the most of them live the longest.
That's good logic. That's
That's
good
good.
logic.
Okay. All right. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.